what you see here is, the four cherubim, and then Shekhinah, in the form of a black woman, riding upon a palanquin. And this is a very, very powerful, very esoteric image. We call her the Holy Divine Virgin. We say she's the Holy Divine Virgin because no man knows her. Literally, no man knows her practically, because really no man has ever seen her. No man has ever really known her outside of really, a handful of grandmasters that come on the scene maybe every millennia or so, So this is very serious, heavy-duty stuff, The whole world, knows God, at least the Western world knows God through the masculine. They have no idea, no clue whatsoever of the divine feminine. You can see her Shekhinah in the form of a Kushi, which is ancient Hebrew for a black woman, a Kushith, which is ancient Hebrew for a black woman, because this is how she appears when she first begins to reveal herself to the serious master. She reveals herself in the form of an Ethiopian black woman, as she did to Musha, to King Shlomo, David, etc.
Moses is inviting us to look behind him, not at his tablets of the law, but to look behind at the person he's shielding and protecting. Her expression is very interesting. She's both slightly amused but also bemused by what's happening. She's slightly annoyed as well she should be. It seems like he's doing something which is very modern and liberal, and something which is almost incredible in a painting of the 17th century, that he's asking us to accept his Ethiopian wife. That's what the picture's about. It's a unique subject. In fact, there is no other painting of this particular subject known in the history of art.
Moses' wife is known in the Bible as Zipporah. She's usually portrayed as a European woman, but in early Christian sources, Moses had another wife, an Ethiopian. Moses' bigamy didn't suit the church. In later translations of the Bible, Moses' two wives were merged into one, Zipporah. The black wife disappeared into the background. Jordanes, shown here in a self-portrait, was a Calvinist and an avid reader. He was most likely aware of the early Christian story about the second Ethiopian wife.
Jordanes is an artist who loves to interact with the viewer. He takes stories and he sometimes turns them right round. So something that would have been presented as just a narrative scene with various figures standing, he turns it round and makes the principal character look at us. Moses is saying to us, he doesn't care about what Aaron and the relevance of Aaron and Miriam. He's using the viewer's knowledge of this story to say, you must accept my Ethiopian wife, whom God has approved, because in the biblical story God approves, and shows his disapproval of their anger against Moses by giving Miriam leprosy.
Of this very powerful Hebrew word kala, which means bride. It comes from the Hebrew root kala, and again, as with every word being polysemous, it has at least 7 meanings. So we've already given one, which is it can signify bride, but it can also signify completion or ending. It can also signify destruction. It can also very mystically signify daughter-in-law. And it can also signify everything or totality. So these are all other meanings of the word. Now, the fact that kala may also signify everything or totality is a very prime attribute of the divine feminine, which is Shekhinah. The truth of the matter is that this black woman is a reincarnation of Hawa. Musha knows this. There's a lot of holy mysteries going on here. Musha knows that this black woman is a reincarnation of Hawa. Is an actual incarnation of the holy goddess. She is a goddess in the flesh. Kali is equated to Kala. Okay? Now, the word Kali is the feminine form of the Sanskrit word Kalam, which means black. So automatically, in Hindu theosophy, this great goddess known as Kali is associated with blackness. And you'll see in many depictions of her that she will be drawn black. And yet we have this exact attribute to our chief goddess Kala. Our chief goddess that we worship, which is Kala, she too is known to be black. Lo, behold, it is written in our ancient divine oracles, I am black but lovely. Look not upon me because I am black. Quoting Shir HaShirim chapter 1 verses 5 to 6. She is the creatress of this entire universe, and she is also its destroyer. Videos, we know that this verse has everything to do with the holy goddess, specifically Lilith, who is black, the Black Madonna. Now, if you're a standard holy initiate and adept, you should automatically know who this verse is referring to, who in this verse is speaking. It is none other than Kala, than our heavenly divine mother, than Shekhinah. Go and open up any ancient esoteric Jewish Kabbalistic book, any ancient Jewish Kabbalistic book commentary on this verse will automatically explain to you the holy mysteries behind these opening verses, all being exclusive references to Shekhinah or Kala. So that's one critical aspect of the equation. But let us continue because there are many. Now, Kali is also related to the Sanskrit word Kala, which in certain contexts can signify death. Now, as I already stated in the opening slides, the Hebrew word Kala may also signify destruction. This is also why we read in Proverbs chapter 5, verse 5, speaking on Malchut, it states, her feet descend to death, her level/steps take hold of Sheol. So, in Hindu theosophy, many Indians, I guess you could call them Brahmins, would associate Kali with evil, with Hades or hell, with death. These same attributes also apply to Shekhinah if you have been fully initiated into the holy mysteries.
But here's an image that is especially fascinating and that art historians have had a great amount of difficulty figuring out exactly what's going on here. It appears to be a Seder meal. Note that all the participants are female, so it appears that the men and women must have eaten separately. The woman on the far right seems to be leading the Seder. Maybe she's making Kiddush there because she's holding up the wine cup and everyone else is waiting for her. She is clearly leaning to the left. You can see the pillow under her left elbow. And that's all fascinating in itself, but look at the woman at the lower left, who has clearly African features, and in this particular representation her face seems to be kind of bluish. In other photographs it looks a little bit darker, but she's clearly not of the same background as the Caucasian women in the picture, but she's clearly participating in the meal. She's holding up what looks like either a goblet or perhaps a piece of matzah there, and she's looking to the leader of the Seder like everyone else. She's seated like she's a guest at the table. She's not a servant or anything like that, even though she appears not to be related to the women. So exactly who is this dark-skinned woman at the Passover Seder? Let us go back to this question of who is the dark-skinned woman at the Seder table. So I will leave it to the great art historians to try and opine what possibly this could mean. But I'd like to suggest, and this is just maybe something you can discuss at your Passover Seder yourself, that woman is like the other, the guest at the table. You know, at the beginning of the Seder, we like to say, whoever is hungry, please come and eat. That's part of the Haggadah itself. Who knows why that woman is in that picture? But just as she was in the family of the people who commissioned the Sarajevo Haggadah, the presence of this other, this mysterious dark-skinned woman at the Passover Seder should give us some pause to think about how we relate to others in our own life.
Now, I'm sure that most of you know the old story about the astronaut who went far out into space and was asked on his return whether he had been to heaven and seen God. And he said yes. And so they said to him, well, what about God? And he said, she is black.